This thick and creamy goodness is a classic Italian dessert called panna cotta. It's super delicious but has a ton of calories, so I decided to not only make it low in calories, but also add some protein without using protein powder, which I know a lot of you don't want to use. The main ingredient of the classic recipe are heavy cream, sugar and the vanilla bean. That is why this is so delicious, but unfortunately also has a ton of calories. So sugar is actually a very easy swap. I found something called sugar here where I live, which is essentially a sweetener made out of sucralose and erythritol. You can also use stevia or allulose, all of them work. Heavy cream, however, is where it gets interesting. It's not that easy to reduce the calories and add protein without completely changing the flavor profile of the cream, which is rich and sweet. So I decided to still use a little bit of the cream because of its flavor, but then add 1.5% fat milk to add that milky flavor without too many calories, and then plain skyr or 0% fat Greek yogurt. This is a tremendous protein source with 60 calories and 10 grams of protein. There are not a lot of other foods that have this high amount of protein in 60 calories. So this is the baseline of this recipe. However, there is one last ingredient that is the most important of all, and it's gelatin. This is where the magic happens in this recipe. Add 9 grams into a glass with 50 grams of water and mix. By the way, gelatin is a common ingredient in all sorts of recipes. It gets way too much hate in my opinion. Look at the consistency. It is still completely liquid, so let it rest for a couple of minutes and this will change drastically. Next, the vanilla bean. You need one for this recipe. However, if you don't have access to it, you can also add 10 to 15 grams of vanilla extract. I personally don't like extract because it has a weird artificial flavor, so I'm going to stick to the bean. What you need to do is slice the vanilla in half, and do you see the black powder stuff here inside? This is where most of the vanilla flavor comes from. It is super powerful. Scrape all of it with a knife. You will be shocked by how much flavor comes from this small amount of vanilla. So before you start, take a big bowl and place it in the fridge to cool down. I will show you why in a second. Then place a pot on a scale and add in 300 grams of milk, 200 grams of heavy cream. Like I said, the richness is quite important in this recipe, followed up by the vanilla beans and also the shell that will add a lot of flavor as well. Place it on the stove on medium heat and give everything a whisk. Let the dairy simmer for about 2 to 3 minutes, then take it off the heat and remove the vanilla. You can throw this into the garbage now. Then add in 30 grams of sweetener, and do you remember the gelatin? Look at how it turned after a couple of minutes. It is a gel now because it reacted with the water, but as soon as this gets added to the hot liquid, it will completely dissolve. And once it has cooled down again in the fridge, the dairy will have its signature panna cotta texture. So now take out the bowl from the fridge, which should be cold now, and add in 500 grams of skyr, followed up by the hot dairy, and start whisking. Remember, we have milk in here that it is mostly water and also cream that is mostly fat. If you put this into the fridge now when it's still warm, the fat in the water will have more than enough time to separate again, which is not exactly what you want. We want one homogeneous texture. That is why a cold bowl helps, because it will cool down the milk quicker so the gelatin can already start to react and keep the fat from separating. Distribute the dairy now into glass containers. This recipe makes around 3 to 5 servings depending on how big you want to make them. This is honestly a great breakfast as well, so you can make a couple of smaller and also a big serving. After that, refrigerate them for at least 2 hours or up to an entire week, and look how thick the texture is now. This already tastes absolutely amazing, but if you want to level this up even further, you need a glaze, preferably made out of strawberries. For that, take out 350 grams of fresh strawberries and remove the roots. Once all the strawberries are cleaned, you need to halve them into 2 portions. One half you need to cut into small bite-sized pieces. For the other half, however, you need a blender or a food processor. Put them in, followed up by a juice of half a lemon, 30 grams of sweetener, and optionally a 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch. This will help making it super smooth. Blend this now on high for about 1 minute, and then this goes into a pot. Optionally, you can strain it in through a mesh strainer to make it even smoother and remove all leftover kernels. Place the pot on the stove on medium-high heat, and as soon as it starts to simmer, this will take about 2 minutes, add all of the fresh strawberries and give everything a stir. There you have an amazing strawberry glaze. This is also really good on, for example, cheesecake. One last thing, you need to wait until the panna cotta is already a bit hard if you want the glaze to stay on top. So after the panna cotta was in the fridge for about an hour, distribute it evenly on top, and there you have an absolutely amazing dessert or even breakfast. The entire recipe without the glaze comes in at 1047 calories with 75 grams of protein. So if you make 3 servings, it would be 350 calories with 25 grams of protein each. I made a cookbook that helped me go from this to this without even thinking about being on a diet. 190 low-calorie, high-protein recipes from breakfast, lunch or dessert, and even nutritional tables or protein sources. Everything you need is in here. And the best part is that I will constantly be updating the book with new recipes, and you will get every recipe update for free once you've purchased it. Join the thousands of people that already bought the book. The link is in the description.